Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's juice. Good morning, y'all. Yeah. Previously on Kimba TV. I'm pretty sure I drew it just like this. You can't confirm the failed auction until we make a lower low. Even if we got rejected here, like if it does this bullshit, that's hella bullish, right? That's hella bullish. Bro. Like I'm already thinking about this. Watch. Dink. Dink. Isn't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? Michael, you good? Good morning, Jedi. Sliced bread. Stop Steak says good morning. I hope I didn't miss anything. No, I mean, it's basically just a continuation off of yesterday. Nanad says, so are we dumping? Well, it's a continuation off of yesterday. So this is where we wanted to think about shorting. You know what the best part is? One, look at Bookmap. Look at all those limits for longs. And you already got the 886 golden pocket. So you're already getting something like this. What were we saying? Oh, you already have structure. So if you want a long, that single print right there at 0.5, or if you do that, then you're in trouble. So that's kind of like your pivot point right there. Jupiter, thank you for the resub. How is your trading light? I think it's still down. Yes, it's still down. Let me put this on RTH so we have that for ourselves. All right, so RTH, easy money, Bugatti money, and then ETH, easy money, Bugatti money. If it's really going to be bullish, then the value area high retest is probably your best bet. Going back inside value, you're fucked. Kagam to show the hidden alpha again. Well, it's so first things first, Kagam. Do you remember all day yesterday we identified a level, Kagam? There's going to be some people that will try or have tried to put blind limits to short this. Right? Maybe even here. But this is a great example of why when RTH is done, I usually just kind of walk away and we don't really trade overnight. Can you see that things haven't really changed since yesterday? We identified a level that we were looking to short. Do we have structural edge? Do we have a swing fail pattern anywhere aside from maybe here? No. But what we're really going to get is a failed auction setup. So you have an option of, do you want to take this short? Do you want to take this short? Or do you want to take this? Either way, if you lose this, you're fucked. If you're bullish. You're not, remember what we said? It's not about how high it goes. If it goes up, breaks outside of value, and then comes back in. So that's what's bearish. That hasn't changed at all. If you want to short, you had a chance here. You had a chance here. Or you can wait for the VWAP to get turned into resistance. If you want a long, the most aggressive would be holding the VWAP. The next would probably some sort of SFP. And the next logical place after that to take a long would be grabbing the single print. So it kind of just depends on what your bias is for today. Most aggressive long would be VWAP, obviously. The next one would be structure change. and clean, which would be to, get rid of the ETH low, because this is what RTH is. So yeah, that's it. Fred says, I love the math. Yep. It's pixel perfect. So it's just everything that we talked about in the morning. John Kata says, what do you think of the SFP of 98,550? That would be the most obvious. But we got to take it level by level. So obviously, this is pixel perfect math. So pixel perfect, 886. Rotate 618. And then this is the pivot point. Are we going to be able to make a higher high, or are we going to go get a lower low? And then obviously, as you know, if you zoom in on this structure, it's also pixel perfect as well. So I'm sure you guys are all pulling this. Talked about this 3 days ago. The failed auction at the 96.5 level that we talked about yesterday. So this is a great example, I think, of like just not being patient, right? So we like to identify levels. So we identified this level yesterday, this sort of zone right here. This is Kimba box right here. Yes, 618, 786. So it's really just a matter of waiting for structure. Some people, like we talked about in the morning, they might try to blind short this. That's not what we do. You have an opportunity if you want to take a short, whether it's the golden pocket getting turned into resistance, or it's the sweep right here. So if you want to take a 7.5 short and that's your invalidation, you're more than welcome to. You guys know that I like to wait for the VWAP to get turned into support or resistance. You know that instead of, getting in where there's a whole collection of highs that need to get swept, I rather have structure change. So it's pretty much just a pop quiz of what do you know. Yeah, but it's math. We talked about this a couple days ago. So yeah, we'll see. Single print right here. That's available right there. I think somebody was asking about that. Just level by level. Obviously, if we're going to go get a higher high, you're going to be able to turn the golden pocket into support. So turn that into support. Chances of making a higher high go up. It just kind of depends on like what your subconscious bias is. Are you really bearish or are you really bullish? So if you're bearish, you want to leave those, just like how the lows were left behind like that. Shumra says FedNet liquidity shrinking. Yes, we've been talking about that for quite some time now, Shumra. Every single time somebody says, hey, Kimba, can we do altcoin nerd out? And I always say, well, until we get blank and blank, altcoin season isn't going to start, right? And so do you understand why we're not in like a super, super big ass rush, Shumra? Yep. So I love that you're watching it. Obviously, you know that I'm watching it. Yes, sir. All decisions are based off of juicy juice data. Coke Zero says, my only concern, I've been so bearish the last month and I've been so much stopped out. That's okay, but this is what I would say. You got to have like your plan. Like your subconscious bias is always going to kick in, right? I mean, you know me for, I would say, since summer of last year, right? We've been talking about, hey man, I think 2025 is going to be bullish. I'm going to start selling and being risk off. end of 2025, beginning of 2026, assuming that, like the economic narrative is still the same. Yeah, so I would, you got to have your higher time frame, smaller time frame, medium time frame. So, yeah, I think, naturally, since we spent 6 months trying to long this, and we tried to long all of this the best that we could. We even wanted a little bit lower to long even lower. So, I think for a lot of us that spent all of those months like trying to long, some of you guys got in longs from here. That's awesome. Obviously, I didn't. But, it's a little bit hard to think about longing here. You know what I mean? But it depends, on what your time frame is and how you're playing it and how you're realizing profits. There's people that are bullish, but because of their leverage and how they're actually not too sure, there's people that are bullish trying to long, losing money. There's people like me that are shorting and I'm probably up like 85K. Obviously, if my shorts could have worked, I'd be up like 4 million. So comparing 4 million to 80K, I basically got round tripped and break even. But there's people that were bullish and trying to long and lost money. Isn't that insane? There's people like me that were shorting and I'm up 89K or 85K or whatever. Now obviously it should have been 4 mil. So I basically got round tripped. So for me, it's not 89K. I pretty much got round tripped, but, yeah, you got to have your subconscious bias. Yeah. But your subconscious bias is always going to kick in, So you got to figure out like what is appropriate for you, what kind of risk appetite do you want to take? Yeah. But the thing is there's really no right or wrong. Yeah. But as somebody that, we were looking for longs for 6 months here and we were trying to long here, you're not going to see me longing up here. That's just, there's no way, So like I'm never going to, if these weren't daily candle closes and these were 5-minute candles, I'm not longing at the golden pocket there. There's just no way. I longed here when I was talking about 2025 is bullish. I was trying to long here and got some longs here when I said 2025 is bullish. Yeah, but it's just hard for me to start longing there. Yeah. So I could see like how if you don't have any longs here, then yeah, trying to chase it here is probably appropriate. Yeah, so I think it depends on your scenario. If you weren't bullish at all here, then trying to kind of chase it here, maybe you have to, but Coke Zero says, to be honest, I had longs there, but I TP them. That's okay, but you see what I mean by your subconscious bias is always going to kick in? You might not have been as bullish as I am. I've been talking about 2025 as bullish. I think I think we're going to peak out at the end of 2025. Think about how long and how many times I've been saying that, Coke Zero. I've been saying that since last summer. 2025 is bullish. I'm going to get rid of my, real estate assets, a lot of my risk on assets. I'm going to start selling a lot of my equities and stock stuff. That's always been my plan. So if you weren't as convinced of that as me, yeah, you're probably going to TP earlier than me. So that's what I mean. Everyone's subconscious bias, like that's just human nature. When you get stressed, your real you shows up. It's undeniable. You can fake it and you can pretend, but when the cortisol kicks in, when the adrenaline is surging through your frontal cortex, your real you is always going to show up. So if you're really bullish, awesome. If you're really bearish, awesome. But, you know, the faster that you figure that out, the better. Stop the music real quick. By the way, this is pure math. I hope everybody understands. If you don't want to wait for the bearish retest of this, and if you just want to market smash that, you already have your invalidation. You want the initial bounce from the golden pocket first, and then nuke, and then you have your invalidation. Math. Isn't this shit like, isn't this just a quiz of everything that we talk about every day, ladies and gentlemen? It's literally a quiz, chat. Do you know what the fuck going on? Do you know how to manage risk, understand probabilities? What is your invalidation? How do you confirm shit? Are you prepared? Are you patient? Show me, motherfucker. Go. S&P, get your bitch ass down there. Come on, quit playing with me. God damn, I'm hitting the Dougie like I'm fucking Frederick Douglass, chat. So, S&P short is doing great. Bitcoin short is doing great. What I really need to figure out is, am I going to TP the whole S&P short at the box? And if so, do I want to keep the short running, or do I want to think about longing, right? All right, y'all. Yes. Big cheers. We're going to have the press conference in a little bit. We're going to have some of the brightest minds that American journalism has to offer ask some of the most intriguing and well thought out questions. And for International Lions, I was being sarcastic. So let us the fuck up. We shaved a little bit, obviously, on structure change on the lower low, but we knew that it could be an SFP. I've got the rest stop loss in, I would say, like, yeah, it's considerably tiny profit. So if it's gonna get me, it's gonna get me, chat. Fuck. But longers, I'm rooting for you. Shorters, I'm rooting for you. Bulls, Bears, we're all Lions. Let's get it. All right. Look, if I get stopped out on the rest, I'm gonna just blame bald ass Kevin from MSNBC. Am I right? Verti, Grimes, Latisse, Living Forest, Ayo Gaines. PA was not what I thought it would be. You know what's crazy? Ayo Gaines is at the end of this all. Okay? At the end of all of this, right? What happened? We said that we were going to short there. Right? From the fib, it's 886 golden pocket, 786, all that shit. Pixel, perfect. (886) 914 all the way to golden pocket, back testing 7.5. And you know, when we figured out that we wanted to short this, we already had this level identified. And lo and behold, there's a clear structure happening in front of us right now. So I think if you were a little bit rushy with it, or if you were putting blind limits in, or if you were going to do high leverage or a combination of any of those things, yes, I think you could have not only lost some money, but you could have taken big losses because of how many attempts you tried. But the level is identified. We like structural edge. We like open interest edge. And you guys know how we play this. So at the end of it all it did was just pure fib this hoe. even down to the golden pocket retest. So dink, dink, right? It loses it, the golden pocket, bearish retest, pixel, can't make it up, Kachoy, testnet. At the end of it all, dude, like, it's just been a continuation from last Thursday, you know? So isn't that crazy? And then at this point, like, depending on how you want to zoom in, you know, so for example, we did things like, if it really is a swing fail, it wouldn't lose what, right? And then even things like, well, we know that a golden pocket retracement is nothing, so there's nothing to worry about. But if golden pocket gets turned into support, then it's got a chance to go higher up. You know, so we're watching that. It gets rejected pixel perfect at 7.5, and now we're heading back down again. And then if you really wanted to, you could go from here to here. Pixel perfect again. I mean, it just bing bong ding donging. If you really want to see it, 30-minute line, that's where we are. On 30-minute body candle closes, it hasn't broken the neckline. And it hasn't even done like a lower low or a bearish retest or any of that. But give it up for pixel perfect. Give it up for structure. You guys see it? So does it mean that it's going to have to fail auction above the value area high and then do a full rotate all the way down to value area low and then possibly clean it at 91? No, it's in fact, if it really is bullish, this is value area high and that's the single print. Bulls should be able to buy this back like a motherfucker. So, you know what would make me feel bullish, right? Getting above VWAP. Then I would be like, oh, fuck. We have made structure change. We grabbed imbalance. We did the value area high, bullish retest. We're back above the failed auction neckline. We're about to change structure. So anything that you think, whether the VWAP or the point of control up there that was previous resistance is going to turn into support, the earlier that you do it, the better, because your invalidation would be the structure change on that lower low on this wick. But that's 20 minutes away from now. That also means that U.S. markets are closed. You're not going to have RTH to help you. And you just had no rate cut. And Jerome Powell kind of sounded a little kind of like sell in May, walk away, let us pray kind of bullshit. So anyways, that doesn't mean that I'm not afraid to long. So if it wants to go to 91, I'll be taking a look at that SFP. You guys clearly know that I'm really interested in that box down there on S&P. And obviously, if we want a big long or a big short, Monday or Tuesday next week would be the best, yeah? So it's not always going to be like pixel perfect, you know? But for the most part, conceptually speaking, I think everything, you know, kind of played out and went well. And we're ready for our next trade, right? And we positioned ourselves in a situation where we can't lose. Not too bad, huh? Let's go. Good job. Damn, that's like perfect. Let's go. Good job. All right, any questions? I had a blast. You guys doing all right? Hey, stay safe. Don't do nothing crazy without me. All right. 99% of you guys have been here long enough to understand that, you know, if you're really not sure, waiting until Monday, Tuesday, you know, you might not have the best entry, but you're going to have a little bit more CME confluence to help you out. All right. Regardless of how great your short entry or how great your long entry is, make sure that you're thinking about worst case scenario. Shave and realize. Make the unrealized imaginary number that you see, okay, actually real. So make sure you guys shave. Make sure you guys realize. Look for structure change. Look for levels. Obviously, VWAP has been resistance so far, so getting above that, turning that shit into support. Let's go. All right, levels to the upside, 98.6 on CME, 99,060, 100,700. Levels to the downside, the bad lows, the 91, the 88, the 92. I mean, there's so many single prints down there. There's so many fibs and VWAP down there. You know, I think if I were to think about longing Biddy, if it does go back down, I'm going to just wait until S&P hits that box and I can see what the reaction of traditional markets are at that appetite zone. So, and you know what's crazy? That's something that we've been talking about, planning for days and weeks. So it's not like we're just thinking of it on the spot. So follow through feels good. There's always going to be a scalp long, scalp short. Get nasty with it, chat. All right. You know, missing out on a trade, not that big of a deal. But FOMOing, YOLOing, doing something that you know you didn't want to do or shouldn't have done, and then regretting it later, just pissing away money for no reason, completely unacceptable. So if you see edge, bullish or bearish, take it. I'm rooting for you. All right. There's always a chance that there's a 5-minute bull div and you take it, right? And for some reason, other data and other things start to line up, and lo and behold, that 5-minute bull div fuck around long might end up being a mega juicer to 100. You never know. But just like how you never know if it could be a home run, you never know if it could just come back and round trip you. And the probabilities will lean towards you getting round trip. So shave when you can. You don't need to close the whole thing, obviously. All right. Always be thinking about how you would re-enter. Because if you're thinking about how you would re-enter, you can kind of emotionally distance yourself from the trade that you're already in now. Isn't it easier to break up with somebody if you already have like the girl that you really like on deck? So it's not that difficult to get round tripped on a trade that you're already in when you're already waiting for the next one. Oh shit, dude! I see that this could actually make a lower low. It could do an SFP. I could get an even better entry. Let's go. It's a fucking bad low anyway. Sweep that hoe. All right. Happy 420 says, a year ago was my first FOMC with you. It's still the same clusterfuck that it was last year. Wasn't it, Happy 420? What'd you think about today? Were you able to stop by since the beginning, brother? Right off the get-go, we were talking about like saving the bad highs for later, right? Failed auction. Even before we regrouped today, we identified the level. How crazy is it that the level that we identified ended up being the neckline for the failed auction, right? How crazy is it that we had those goofy longs opening at the top? So you end up slowly but surely, you identify the level. At that level, it's building a failed auction, right? It took all night and all day today to basically form, do a bearish retest, and we are yet to make a lower low. So this one has to make a lower low, then you're confirmed, right? But crazy stuff, man, crazy stuff. So, edge was there, took it, not afraid. Stop loss and profit. If we get round tripped on this short again, no big deal. That's okay. We'll be able to scalp along on Monday if it really is bullish. So just like how we did smaller time frame stuff, whether it's the VWAP or the point of control or the value area high or the value area low, depending on what time frame, depending on is it on CME, Coinbase, or derivatives? Did it grab single prints? Did it not? Does it have S&P confluence? Does it not? There's so many scalp long and scalp shorts that eventually can turn into super juicy home runs. So keep taking your shots, manage your risk. Worst case scenario, if you're wrong, you get stopped out at break even or a tiny, tiny loss. You know, ideally you have edge and you can at least shave a little bit at VWAP or point of control or a fib or whatever you like. So even if you do get round tripped, you were able to realize a little bit of profits, and then you can take another trade. You got to rewind and get caught up. Okay. We talked about that and the value area high. I just talked about the value area high, brother. Yup. You mean if you didn't take that long, then the next resistance or the resistance turning into support would be VWAP or point of control. Okay. And then last but not least, you can take the fib from here to here, and you understand that if it turns the golden pocket into support, you're going to have a high chance to make a higher high. If you make a higher high on this guy, that guy is going to get stopped out and it's going to trigger this guy. When this guy gets stopped out, it's going to get that guy. So you already know that you're looking for like a sweep. Okay. So that means that that's the last place where you should really be thinking about long. Don't be fucking talking about, is it too late to long when it's doing this? You know goddamn well that if this golden pocket from this range to this range gets turned into support, you got a chance to make a higher high. You make a higher high on this guy, it's going to make a higher high on that guy. You make a higher high on that guy, you're probably going to make a higher high on that guy. It should be a domino effect. It looks very similar to S&P as well. So if you really want to get along, I don't know why you wouldn't take that single print. I was dead ass. Like, if you're really bullish, it's going to bounce from there. So I don't know why, if you were bullish, you wouldn't take that and you're still chasing it. I think you have to be honest with yourself. You're not that bullish. But if you're asking me about, could that be a trident? Sure. You're looking for something like this? I don't think you would ever want it to go that low. Obviously, if you get rejected at VWAP again and you're going to go like this, and I'm sure that's golden pocket. It's a little bit better, in my opinion, to you let the structure form and then let that bitch confirm, try to get in on the second one. But there's, everything has its own risk profile. There is no right or wrong. Okay, just shitty risk management and good risk management. So take your shots. But if you're really bullish, I don't know why you didn't take that single print one. So, I would say that you better get the fuck in before that golden pocket resistance gets flipped as support. Anything above that, and if you're still not in a long and you told me that you're bullish, I think you got to be honest. You're not. Okay. All right. Anything else? You guys okay? Soldier, Daisy, Chris, Heyblade, Petrus. And by the way, I'm just a random dude on the internet. You know that the real value comes from the community, right? You guys know that you guys are amongst hundreds, if not thousands of people that can trade just as good, if not better than I can. So exclamation Discord, exclamation YouTube. The math is the math. Remember, it doesn't really matter if you're bullish or bearish. We're probably all looking at the same exact levels. Some of us want it to hold as single print. Some of us want that VWAP to be resistance. But we're all pretty much looking at the same shit. So, you should be able to tell me if you want to debate whether we should long or short, that's Gucci. But there is no debating if longs are trapped. There is no debating if shorts are squeezing, right? Longers, I'm rooting for you. Shorters, I'm rooting for you. Bulls, Bears, we're all Lions. I love you guys, man. Happy FOMC May 2025. Another one in the books, chat. Let's get it. We got CPI next week. Uh-oh, hot dog. Sato, tell them what happens if they don't use good risk management.